Okay, so if you look at this particular graph, and I hope I have done it correctly. If you look at this graph and think about the Gibbs free energy, the particular phase of matter that would be more stable would be the one that has the lower Gibbs free energy. So up to this point, let me do it okay. So up to this point, starting from a low temperature all the way up to this red point over here, it so happens that the solid is more stable, yeah? Beyond that, if you look over here, G is minimal for the liquid phase. Yes? So over here it's the liquid that's more stable. LIQ. And then beyond, so let's mark that by something. And beyond that, the line for the gas happens to be with the lowest Gibbs free energy, so my gas should be more stable. What is this essentially? What are these 2 points? Right. Thanks to my classic artistic skills in the morning, what I had done was made the TN on right of PD. I didn't realize till one of the students actually said, I think the TN should be less. And you see there's another point over there somewhere which the solid intersects with the gas. And you know it's the sublimation point. And it can be reached if only the Gibbs free energy would be lower than this particular line. That happens in the case of carbon dioxide. It goes straight away to the gas without going through the liquid phase, which of course depends on these slopes. Okay. Huh? Oh, yeah, S. Entropy. Huh? Oh, तो यार मैंने बोला कि let's assume that Cp is constant. Constant नहीं है, temperature में तो depend कर रहा है S. हाँ? S is just the slope. That's a constant. As long as I assume that it does not change much. If it does, then it's only going to increase with temperature. Yes? If it increases with temperature, this slope could go more like this, more like these curves, right? Curving outwards, right? In that case, it's more obvious that the solid to liquid to gas temperatures would also occur in the same way.
Do we get a triple point if we are considered?
Sorry?
So do we get a triple point if these 3 lines are considered?
That depends on the pressure. We are holding this at constant pressure, right? And that really depends on the pressure if you get a triple point or not. Normally what we are drawing is just in general. Triple point is just one case. Where the pressure is 1, you cannot change the pressure, you cannot change the temperature. So if I happen to draw it for the triple point, I would get concurrence of all 3 lines or 3 curves. But yeah. This is more general. Yeah. Maybe you could assume it at normal conditions. One bar would be fine. Okay. So if I really wish to write it down, dg dt at constant pressure, then it's equal to minus s, which I can also write as, so g is equal to h minus ts, or g minus h divided by t would be equal to minus s. Yes. So if I can write in this form, and then using this particular form, it's actually more useful to have this particular quantity, which we'll see in another 3 lectures. I hope we'll see. Okay. And just a 2-step derivation, which I've given in the notes, so let's not worry about that. What I get is minus h by t square, which I guess you recognize Gibbs Helmholtz equation. Or you could put a you could put a delta G also over there, because that's just subtracting one value of G from the other, and that would come out as delta H. Right? So you could get this, and we will discuss a bit more about this in perhaps 3 lectures from now. But yeah, it's good to know. So just keep it with you and discuss later. When we come to the equilibrium, we'll discuss about that. Okay? And this is rather than del G by del T, del G by T divided by del T is the one that is more related to equilibrium. So I just told you now. Okay. Now, if you worry about the other thing that happened, that was change of G as a function of pressure at constant temperature was equal to volume. Now, again, if you think about it, that if I apply pressure, first, what is the volume of a gas? Is much larger than that of a liquid. It is slightly larger than a solid. Liquid solids have almost similar volumes also. In most cases. In certain cases, it could be different. So anyway, so I would say that the volume of liquid is small, the volume of solid is small, volume of gases is very large. So the effect of pressure on the Gibbs free energy would be very small for condensed phases, but large for gases. So unless you are going to apply very high pressures and you demand that you want very much accuracy in the determination of the Gibbs free energy, we would consider these only for gases. Right? So if I think of the molar Gibbs free energy in the final state or at the final pressure, so let me write it like that. Pressure final is equal to the molar Gibbs free energy at the initial pressure plus, so dG is equal to V times dP. Yeah, I could write like this, and let me just take the molar values over there, plus integral of V bar dP from the initial pressure to the final pressure. So what does it give for a gas? V bar is P, V bar is equal to RT. So V bar is equal to RT by P. Temperature is constant, so RT goes out. So dP by P would be log of P, which is log of PF by PI. So it comes out to be, I hope I am writing things correctly, otherwise I just refer to my notes, plus RT log PF by PI. Instead of doing this, what they do
is take Pi as some standard pressure, and instead of that write 0, a small dot over it. So Gibbs free energy at pressure P is equal to Gibbs free energy at that standard pressure plus RT log pressure divided by that standard pressure P naught. Mostly standard pressure is 1 bar, so people will not write this P naught, and they would rather like, so P naught is there, right? And